All right, it's Therapeutic Thursday. If you have PTSD, if you have PTS, you might actually also be experiencing something called hypervigilance syndrome. So, what is hypervigilance? Well, in Healthline, they had an article written by Anna Cotter, and she describes and defines hypervigilance as a state of increased alertness. Basically, if you're in a state of hypervigilance, then you're extremely sensitive to your surroundings. It can make you feel like you're alert to any hidden dangers, whether from people or the environment. Often, though, those dangers are not real, and that's the key. They're really not real. So, hypervigilance actually goes beyond uh, being aware of your surroundings and can include being extremely aware of your body. Maybe to the point that you're feeling things, um, because we're human, we feel things in our body, but this hypervigilant state uh, makes you then start to assign a novel to those feelings. You're now putting some kind of context that doesn't necessarily exist. So let's talk about hypervigilance. So some of those physical symptoms, they really do resemble anxiety. Okay, and that could be you're sweating, you're feeling a faster heart rate, maybe you're having some palpitations, a little bit more shallow breathing, a heaviness feeling, and being in a constant state of alertness can actually make you quite fatigued and feeling exhausted. So, behavioral symptoms would include a jumpy reflex, knee jerk reaction to your environment. Uh, if you're hypervigilant, you might end up overreacting. You could hear a loud bang and be very reactive. If you misunderstand a coworker's statement, you might think that they're rude. These reactions can end up being a little violent or hostile in a perceived attempt to defend yourself. So we're talking about an extreme state. This is beyond just typical anxiety. This takes it to just a little higher level. So, emotionally, if you're hypervigilant, you might be even more anxiety ridden. You might have more fear, more panic. Um, you might worry that that's going to become even more persistent. So, it's like this cycle that just keeps going and going. So, some of these symptoms may also include a little bit of paranoia. Long-term symptoms might be, if people are trying to help you fix this, that it makes you even more anxious. I mean, that's pretty. Now you're getting into something that's even more severe. Again, this hypervigilance is it's more associated, I would think, with a post-traumatic stress, that reactive, overreactive state that you're in. But I just know that it doesn't feel great. And I think that people can be hyper aware of their body, especially when we go through something like that. That does not make you hyper vigilant. So there's a difference. If you're aware of your body and you're feeling sensations, I think a lot of us would say, those of us that have had a dissection or even had surgery to place a valve, you're feeling things differently. You're hearing your body differently. So you become more aware. You're hyper aware, not necessarily vigilant, but you're hyper aware. And we get questions all the time. I'm feeling a little ping or a pang. How do I know if I should go to the hospital? It doesn't feel good. Well, it doesn't feel good versus I'm in a lot of pain are two different things. Having that conversation with your doctor to have a plan in action is very important, but there's a definite difference there. So again, being hyper aware of yourself and feeling your body, understanding the changes that are happening is different than being way overreactive, especially if you're having combinations of being triggered, hearing things, smelling things, feeling things, seeing things, nightmares, insomnia. Once you get to that hypervigilant state, I mean, you should have hopefully been getting some therapy to help you through the PTS to begin with. But if you find that you're in this state, you should definitely talk to a physician, look for a therapist that specializes in helping to ground these behaviors and teaching you how to ground them yourself. So hypervigilance, not something a lot of people talk about, but I think we should probably be talking about it.